On that dark June night in 1944, when young paratrooper James's parachute fell into enemy territory, he never thought he would find himself all alone. Well, what if I told you about that night? Would you like to hear the miraculous rescue story that took place during one of the United States Army's most challenging operations? If you have similar stories, you can send them to the email address provided in the description.
In June 1944, the night before the Normandy landings, we were making our final preparations at our base in England. I was James Mitchell, 23 years old, a paratrooper from Akron, a small town in Ohio. I was 6 feet tall, my brown hair was cut short, my green eyes were filled with determination. My shoulders were broad, my arms were strong as steel, because I had trained for hours every day to become a paratrooper. My hands were full of calluses, my fingers ready to squeeze the trigger. The expression on my face was serious, but inside me was the excitement of reuniting with my beloved Sarah, whom I had left behind in my homeland. While preparing that night, I could feel Sarah's last letter in my pocket. The letter had come from her home in Ohio, carrying the scent of lavender. In her letter, Sarah had written, "James, I'm waiting for you. Mom sits by the window every day, praying for your return. Dad also talks about you constantly while working at the factory. Everyone in town is proud of our hero. Please take care of yourself." The last lines of the letter ended with the words, "I love you forever. We'll get married as soon as you return." While having our last dinner at the base, we were chatting with my friends. Tommy Johnson was a redhead with freckles from Boston, a cheerful kid who always made jokes and made us all laugh. Mike Rodriguez was from California, of Spanish origin, dark-skinned, with a very sincere smile. David Williams was from New York, tall, blonde-haired, blue-eyed, quiet but reliable paratrooper. We all came from different states, but war had made us brothers. While we were eating, Captain Hayes came over to us. "Boys, tomorrow is the big day. Think of your families, your loved ones. We're fighting for them." Then he turned to me. "Mitchell, you've been talking about Sarah constantly. You'll be reunited with her, son, I promise." At midnight, as our plane was passing over the English Channel, I felt a sudden jolt. German anti-aircraft guns had found us. The plane began to sway left and right. We were looking out the window. Yellow lights were flickering below. These were German searchlights. The metal body of our aircraft was vibrating with noise. My friends were very tense. Some were praying. Tommy's face had turned pale. Mike was clenching his hands. David was quietly murmuring. Captain Hayes' voice echoed through the intercom. "Get ready, boys. You're jumping early." My heart was beating wildly in my chest. I checked my hands, examined my parachute. I felt Sarah's last letter in my pocket. My friends around me were also making their final preparations. Everyone had the same mixed expression in their eyes. Fear, excitement, determination. The plane shook once more, this time more violently. Metal pieces were falling, smoke had started coming from the left wing of the plane. The captain's voice was heard again. "Jump now, Mitchell." When I jumped from the door, the cold wind slapped my face. Below, instead of the open fields I expected, I saw dark forest shadows. The wind was dragging me far from the area we had planned.
I got caught in tree branches with my parachute. The branches scratched my face, opened a deep cut on my arm. While passing through the trees, I got caught in the thorns of the bushes. When my feet touched the ground, I felt that the soil was soft. It must have rained. The silence of the night was ringing in my ears. I could only hear the sound of the wind rustling the leaves and the distant barking of dogs.
I walked through the forest until morning. My feet were swollen. My throat was bone dry. Throughout the night, every sound frightened me. Once I heard a motor sound in the distance. It must have been a German patrol. I hid behind a tree for hours. My arm continued to hurt. The bleeding had stopped, but the wound was starting to get infected. The paratrooper uniform on me was torn. My boots were covered in mud. When the sun rose, I found myself near a small farm. The farmhouse was made of stone. Its roof was tiled, with cabbage and potato fields stretching around it. Chickens were wandering in the garden. A small barn was visible. The smoke coming from the chimney showed that someone was inside. As I approached the house, someone was watching me from the window, parting the curtain. As I approached the farmhouse, the door suddenly opened. In front of me stood a 50-year-old man with gray hair and blue eyes. He was medium height, his shoulders bent from work, his hands stained with soil. His face was sunburned, wrinkles drew deep lines around his eyes. He was wearing a thick wool sweater. His pants were patched but clean. This was William Carter, the farmer. When he saw me, he was frightened at first, then looked at my uniform and relaxed when he realized I was an American soldier. "Are you American, son?" he asked. His voice was trembling but warm. "Yes, sir, I'm lost," I said. William took me into the house. The inside of the house was warm and hospitable. A fire was burning in the stone hearth. The walls were covered with wood. While we were sharing bread at the wooden table, his 17-year-old daughter, Mary, entered the room. Mary was a tall, beautiful young girl with golden blonde hair falling to her shoulders, innocent but determined green eyes. Her hands were delicate, her fingers long. Her face was like an angel, but there was courage in her eyes. She was wearing a simple blue dress, village shoes on her feet. When she saw me, she was frightened at first. Then her father explained the situation to her. "Dad, this is very dangerous," said Mary. "The Germans questioned neighbor Jiang last week. They asked him questions suspecting he was hiding an English pilot." William looked at his daughter. "Mary, this young man needs our help. We must do the right thing." Mary went to the kitchen and brought hot soup. "You're wounded," she said, seeing the cut on my arm. "I need to clean this." She had clean cloths, vinegar, and medicine in her hands. She was very gentle while cleaning my wound. "Does it hurt a lot?" she asked. "No, thank you very much," I said. "My mother used to bandage wounds like this in Ohio, too." I stayed at the farm for 3 days. Every morning I worked in the field with William. We were picking potatoes, cutting cabbage. Farm work took me back to my childhood in Ohio. My grandfather was also a farmer. I used to work with him in the summers. William told me about farm life. "Before the war started, we had a peaceful life here," he said. "Now we live in fear every day, but we still have to do the right thing." Mary cleaned my wound every day, changed my bandages. Healing seemed to flow from her hands. "Do you live like this on farms in America?" she would ask. I would tell her about the farms in Ohio. "We have chickens and cows there too." "People are pure-hearted, helpful." Mary would listen with a smile. "I would like to come there after the war ends," she would say. In the evenings, William and I would listen to the radio. We received news from London. We got information about the course of the war. One evening, we heard this on the radio. American paratroopers have successfully completed their missions. The Normandy landings have begun. My heart was beating with excitement. What about my friends? Were Tommy, Mike, David alive? That night, I looked out the window. Cannon sounds were coming from the distance. The war was approaching. Mary came next to me. "Are you scared?" she said. "Yes, but I'll return." "I'll be reunited with Sarah," I said. Mary nodded. "I'm glad this war is ending. We'll all return to normal." On the second evening, a guest came to the farmhouse. Neighbor Louise was an elderly woman. Her gray hair was braided. Her eyes were tired but alert. Her hands were trembling. Her voice was cracked. "William, the Germans are asking questions again. They're asking if you saw any strangers in the village," she said. My heart stopped. "Don't worry, Louise. Nobody knows anything," William said calmly. On the morning of the third day, William woke me up. "James, you need to hide. German patrol is coming." He took me to the barn, hid me in the hayloft. I breathed in the smell of hay. My heart was beating wildly. I could see the farmhouse from the hayloft. 3 German soldiers came. Among them was a tall, blond, blue-eyed officer. His boots were shining. His uniform was neat and clean. His voice was harsh and authoritative. The officer was asking William questions, searching the farm. "Have you seen any American soldiers?" he asked. William calmly said, "No, I haven't seen anyone." Mary was also standing behind the door. There was fear in her eyes, but she was acting as calmly as her father. The German soldiers also searched the barn, but didn't come up to my hayloft. They left an hour later. The next evening, it was time to say goodbye. Mary bandaged my wound last time. "James, don't remove these bandages until you return to America," she said. Her eyes were teary. "Thank you, Mary, you're a real angel." She gave me homemade bread, cheese, and apples. "In case you get hungry on the journey," she said. I shook William's hand. "Sir, you saved my life. People like you are the real heroes of war." The old farmer wiped his eyes. "Son, you're fighting for our freedom. We could do at least this much. If you come here after the war, our door will always be open to you." I hugged Mary. "Thank you, Mary. I'll never forget you." The young girl tried to hide her eyes. "James, when you're reunited with Sarah, tell her about us. I'll never forget you." "Can I come to Ohio after the war ends?" "Of course," I said. "I'll tell Sarah about you. She loved you very much." As I left the farmhouse, I looked back one last time. William and Mary were waving. The small farmhouse, the chickens in the garden, the potato fields, everything would remain in my memory forever. These people didn't just save me, they showed me the most beautiful side of humanity. Robert and I walked through the night. We were moving like shadows in the moonlight. "Be careful, James. There are still German patrols around here," Robert said. "Don't make a sound. Walk in the shadows." After walking for hours, we reached the seashore. There, a small fishing boat was waiting for us. The boatman looked old and experienced. "Are you American?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "I'll take you safely." While sailing out to sea on the boat, I looked back. The French coasts were getting farther away. I was thinking about William, Mary, and Robert. These people risked their own lives to save me. I'll never forget their faces. The boat was rocking. I was feeling nauseous, but my heart was at peace. I was going home. The boatman took me to the submarine. I felt safe on the British submarine. The officers welcomed me, gave me food, checked my wound. "You're lucky, lad," the doctor said. "The infection hasn't progressed." The submarine commander talked to me. "What did you experience in France?" I told him about William, Mary, and Robert. "Such people are the real heroes of war," the commander said. The submarine took me to England. When my feet touched the ground at the British port, I savored the taste of freedom. I had my wound treated at the military hospital. Officers questioned me, had me write reports. "Was the operation successful?" I asked. "Yes, the Normandy landings were successful." "The war is almost over," they said. While lying in the hospital, I wrote a letter to Sarah. "Dear Sarah, I'm alive and will return home soon. I met extraordinary people in the war. I have many things to tell you. A farming family in France saved me. Thanks to them, I'll be reunited with you. I love you very much." The letter reached her 6 weeks later. From there, I returned to the United States. The ship journey took 10 days. On the ship were other wounded soldiers. We were all thinking about our homes, our families. The Statue of Liberty that we saw at New York Harbor moved me deeply. I had returned to America. When the war ended, I married Sarah. I told her about William, Mary, and Robert. I explained that I survived thanks to them, that their courage and sacrifice brought me home. Years passed. We had children. But I could never forget that night, the help of those people. In 1964, on the 20th anniversary, I went to France with my family. I found William and Mary. William had aged, but Mary was still beautiful. When they saw me, they cried. Mary said, "James, we never forgot you." That night they had given me a life lesson. Sometimes help comes from the most unexpected people at the most unexpected moments. Thanks to their courage and sacrifice, I survived and was reunited with my family. They didn't lose their humanity in the cruelty of war.
James's story showed me once again that when James fell with his parachute that night, he was face to face with death, but heroes like William, Mary, and Robert saved him. Humanity is always hopeful, isn't it? War is won not only on the front lines, but also in the courage of civilians. You can also send your similar stories to the email address in the description. See you in the next video.